In 2020, we were introduced to the likes of Doom Eternal, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. But there was one game better than them all, by my account at least. This is why you should play Hades. My name is Ice, and before we begin, if you like what you're watching, consider giving me a like or maybe subscribe. And if you have any thoughts about the game, video, or anything else, feel free to comment. I'd be happy to read what you have to say. Let's get into it. Defined by its unique art style that shows its flash at a surface level, and is emboldened in detail during conversational moments with drawn-out portraits, Hades is founded in Greek mythology, featuring a slew of gods and other mythological figures, ranging from Achilles to Orpheus to Nyx, even Chaos. The story is focused on the prince of the underworld, Zagreus, who wants to escape Hades due to his desire to see the overworld and leave behind his godly duties. As you progress, he unravels the mystery of his upbringing, starting with the identity of his true mother. Let's take a step back and start with the technical stuff. The game is 11 gigabytes, small and manageable. The ideal size. Performance on this game is superb. I've never experienced lag, frame drops, whatever. And in general, the requirements to run this are extremely simple. I'd say any entry-level machine could probably run this game as intended. It also has really great keybind functionality, with whoever that matters to. That's a super sleek UI, it's easy to manipulate, and as a converted PC gamer, it is really nice to be able to change my buttons around. Regardless, the control scheme is pretty compact and easy to understand. Give it maybe like 30 minutes and you'll have the gist for the most part. There's still a bit more room to master, but you'll get it. Now, let's talk about the game. Hades is a roguelite. Some may not be familiar with the genre, so let me explain first. Roguelites are instance-based games that feature randomly generated encounters, usually in the form of branching paths. In this game's case, the instance is the moment you start an escape attempt. From the moment you start to the moment you are either defeated or complete the run, that is an instance. In between the beginning and end, you'll come across doors. These are your branching paths, and the rooms behind these doors are the encounters. Each encounter features a reward, which is specified by the door you chose. Keep in mind, once you lose, the rewards that are instance-based are lost. There are permanent perks, but they're acquired a bit differently, which I'll explain in just a sec. Now for the rewards, there are two separate categories. You'll have the instance-based rewards and then the consumable rewards. For the instance-based ones, the first one will be boons. These bring you into contact with the god that's related to the symbol on the boon. And they give you a gift which comes in the form of some type of modifier or ability overhaul. Besides the boons, you also have something called the Daedalus Hammer, which changes the core function of your weapon's base attack, charged attack, or special attack. Then there's also Centaur Hearts. That one just ups your max HP by 25 for the run, again, instance based. Then you've got Charon's Obol, which is the gold coin currency that's used at Charon's shops, or the purple fountain things. And then you have Palms of Power, which level up a boon of choice upon pickup. Now for the consumable rewards, you've got things like Chthonian Keys, Darkness, Gemstones, and Nectar. These are primarily used for unlocking things, whether it be weapons, perks, renovations, or dialogue, and you keep them after earning them, so you don't lose them when you lose a run. The dialogue unlocks will also lead to keepsakes, which I'll explain in just a little bit, and beyond those consumable rewards, you then have something called Ambrosia, Diamonds, and Titan Blood. These rewards come from you completing boss fights or clearing a full dungeon run. These have multiple applications between being gifts or unlocking these cool things called aspects and even upgrading the aspects, which I will also explain in just a second. And I know it's a long list, but remembering everything is actually pretty easy. It's just kind of hard to talk about everything because it's, again, a long list. But the game explains everything visually, and they do it in a much simpler way, and the tutorial itself is really, really good. So you can digest everything at your own pace when you actually play. But regardless, let me explain what these consumables are even used for. Gemstones are the simplest. They're used for renovation at this little ghost guy's shop in the main hub. Renovations will give you access to new furniture, decorations, and even special room installments during your runs, such as fountain rooms, these things called infernal troves, and other stuff. Next are perks. To find them, just enter your bedchamber and interact with the big mirror. Perks are separated in tiers, and each tier is unlocked using Chthonian Keys. Perks themselves are purchased using Darkness. These perks also at a certain point get a second version to keep things interesting. Each side will have their own perks. Personally, I find the green stuff to be more useful than the red stuff, but there really isn't a wrong answer. It's all about experimenting in the end. Once you pass through the bedroom, you'll then see your arsenal. There's 6 weapons: a sword, spear, shield, bow, fists, and a gun. Each weapon has 4 aspects, which all have some sort of unique ability. These weapons are unlocked again using Chthonian keys. Each feature the same technical layout, that being there's a normal attack, then a special attack. Some will have charged attacks, or if they don't, they'll feature a more meaningful chain attack. This is something the game does really well, in that no particular weapon feels outright better than the rest. Although, the coolest weapon is the spear. Each one has their own, unique playstyle and utility. And if you're looking around, you'll notice a glass case. That's where your keepsakes are. You get these for the first time you gift nectar to an NPC, and keepsakes are naturally upgraded by having them equipped as you clear encounters. And they can kind of help you force your build too, due to the whole randomness of the game, because each path is, randomly generated when you enter an instance. It can be a little hit or miss getting a build that you'd prefer. So Olympian God keepsakes, for example, help out by guaranteeing that the first boon you find is going to be theirs specifically. Other keepsakes might push you towards certain playstyles, like being more aggressive, or being more tanky, or focusing on positioning yourself behind enemies. There's a lot of flexibility and freedom here to make each run different than the last, which brings me to the focal point of the game, the combat. It's terrific. It's flashy, articulate, and most importantly, fun. Zipping around rooms, leaving behind puddles of goop, and then slashing away at enemies while lightning rains down on them looks fantastic. And so many things within the game aid the combat. Enemy variety. There are certainly repeats like the witches or whatever, and they're pretty annoying, but they still serve a pretty big role in making you conscious of spacing and in teaching you that your attacks, normal or special, can nullify projectiles. Then, the room variety. Some rooms will have specific challenges, whether it be the Horde challenge or maybe Thanatos drops by for a friendly competition. Environmental hazards will fluctuate in the later zones with explosives, traps, and lava, especially in Asphodel. And how about the bosses? There's 4 different fights. I don't want to dive too deep into them for the sake of surprise, but some bosses will swap out after a certain amount of time and change the encounter dramatically. It's just so responsive in the same way that FromSoft games have mastered combat. I truly don't think I've played any other roguelite that does it this well. It's a masterclass in its own right, and requires skill far beyond luck. Though they go hand in hand, if you have no idea what you're doing or are panicking, you'll suffer the consequences even despite having a great build. And before I forget to even mention it, on top of your weapons you'll even get a cast and a call. Your cast is tied to the red crystal thing on your HUD and essentially serves as your third means to fighting, and then the call is only present after acquiring a boon that gives you the ability, and it uses something called the God Gauge, which is right below your health bar that fills up during combat. You can call the moment you have at least 1 bar, but if you hold off until the whole bar is full, then you can do the big, more powerful version. Despite being such a simple looking game, I can't praise the complexity and versatility of the system enough. Seriously, just try it. If you're into action, this will be an instant crush. And I'm sure at this point you can probably guess what my opinion on the game is, but I'll talk about it in depth anyways. I don't say this lightly. This is the best action roguelite ever made. Some roguelites absolutely blunder in the art department, but are held together by fun gameplay, like Slay the Spire for example. While some have great art, but are held back by extremely flat gameplay, and it makes the replayability of it boring. But Hades? I don't know how they did it. They cracked the code. It's as close as you can get to a masterpiece, especially within its genre. Every system within this game is near flawless. The combat is interesting and takes skill. The enemy encounters are varied, and again, interesting. You don't detach mentally at any point in this game. The boss fights pose their own challenges, and building a bank of experience with these fights makes you want to kick their asses even harder. Even the music is phenomenal. The battle tracks are great, giving you a weird mythic heavy vibe, and then in calm places you'll get tranquil melodies, almost like spiritual music. This game right here gets a smooth 9 out of 10. Even a casual gamer could find enjoyment in this title. Runs won't last anywhere beyond an hour for most people. Most clears will run you 40 minutes or less. Maybe you're waiting for someone to get online. Play this in between. Maybe you want to sneak in a quick run while working. Well, play Hades. I'm a little turned off towards the concept of Hades 2, if I'm being honest. Mostly because it'll probably be a one-of-one copy of Hades with a new coat of paint. I'd much prefer a large DLC expansion that adds a new playable character and zone, and an extension to the pre-existing story, but I'm not in charge here. Just a consumer who likes saving money and keeping good games alive. Honestly, there isn't much of anything bad to say beyond that, other than the game won't hold your hand much. Although you can always enable God mode if you're looking to just breeze through and experience the story, which ends surprisingly well. I'm not a big fan of character-driven stories due to the intensive focus on relationships. I could honestly care less. But Supergiant actually did a pretty good job here. No weird love interest, no forced interactions, everything is there for you to interact with at your own pace. And in total, the game can be defined by one word: fun. Give it a try. I think you'll like it. It's available on all platforms, including Game Pass. Personally, I own it on Steam. Bought it during the last winter sale for $8, I think. Normally it sits at $25, which for this game isn't too otherworldly. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye. Also, if you do want to see more content by me, or just, more stuff like this, check out these videos.